Rudy Giuliani, once hailed as America's mayor for his leadership during the September 11th attacks and admired as a tough prosecutor who cleaned up New York City, has over the years transformed from a respected public figure into a controversial, almost tragic character in American politics, and his recent clash with Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is the clearest example of how far his reputation has fallen, because when he arrogantly labeled Crockett a mistake on air, expecting perhaps that his words would carry the same weight they once did, he instead opened the door for a response so sharp, so devastating, and so calculated that it didn't just silence him in the moment but ripped apart the fragile remnants of his public credibility. Crockett, a young, fierce, and unflinchingly confident lawmaker, has earned a reputation for speaking truth to power and refusing to be intimidated by political heavyweights, and when Giuliani threw that dismissive insult at her, he underestimated both her intelligence and her command of the moment, for her reply was not an emotional outburst but a masterclass in rhetorical precision, laying out point by point exactly why Giuliani himself has become a living embodiment of mistakes in judgment, mistakes in law, mistakes in loyalty, and mistakes in dignity, reminding viewers that this was a man who had once stood at the pinnacle of respect only to reduce himself to late-night punchlines with press conferences held at landscaping parking lots, bizarre rants about election conspiracies, and courtroom arguments so outlandish that judges themselves struggled to take them seriously, and Crockett, with surgical calm, dismantled his insult by flipping it back on him, saying in essence that if anyone was the mistake in the room, it was the man whose law license had been suspended, whose reputation in the legal community was in ruins, whose name had become synonymous with dishonesty and delusion, and whose financial state had deteriorated so badly that he was begging for donations just to cover his endless legal bills, and the brilliance of her clapback was not in shouting but in the devastating simplicity of her logic, which reminded the audience that calling a sitting congresswoman, duly elected by the people, fighting every day for her district, a mistake, meant nothing when the words were coming from someone history would remember not as a hero but as a fallen figure, consumed by arrogance, corruption, and blind loyalty to a disgraced president. Her reply instantly went viral, with clips flooding Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, millions of people praising her composure and quick wit, while Giuliani once again became the butt of endless memes comparing his sweaty, hair-dye-dripping press conferences to Crockett's cool, controlled presence, and what this moment symbolized was bigger than a simple exchange of insults. It was a generational clash between the old guard of politics, represented by Giuliani and his crumbling legacy, and the new guard, represented by Crockett and her ability to dismantle outdated power structures with nothing but her words. Commentators on cable news replayed the clip endlessly, panelists marveled at how a single retort had shredded whatever scraps of credibility Giuliani still had, and political analysts began writing about how this confrontation could stand as a turning point, the moment where Giuliani's decline became irreversible, for Crockett did not just defend herself, she rewrote the narrative, reframing Giuliani's attack into an opportunity to show millions of Americans that strength in politics no longer comes from bluster or intimidation but from clarity, intelligence, and moral conviction. And while Giuliani sulked in the aftermath, spinning his usual half-hearted justifications, Crockett rose higher in stature, her star shining brighter as the public saw her as the embodiment of resilience and truth-telling. And the irony is that Giuliani's insult was meant to diminish her but instead elevated her to a national stage, proving once again that in modern politics, words are weapons, but only in the right hands, and when wielded with precision, they can end careers, shift narratives, and define legacies, which is why this exchange will be remembered not just as another Giuliani blunder but as a historic moment when a young congresswoman destroyed the last illusions of an old political figure's relevance on live television, showing the entire nation that while Giuliani might call others mistakes, his own legacy has become the greatest mistake of all.